What's up everyone, John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with a full review for you of the recently unboxed Motorola Bravo for AT&T Wireless. Let's go ahead and get started. So before I get into the features of the phone, let's talk first about call quality. No matter what the phone can do or not do, if it's not going to make good phone calls, it's not going to be much use to you. So generally when I test phones, I will do a 20 call test from various regions where I am in Southern California, of each call in 2 minutes in length to test signal strength, call quality, and any sort of dropped calls that we might have. So in my 20 call test, I actually had 2 dropped calls with this, and I found signal strength to be about medium to acceptable. With other AT&T phones, I've generally been able to pull in about 3 to 4 bars of 3G. This was pulling in just about 2 to 3, so about a bar less. Now certainly the bars rely on proprietary algorithms and aren't necessarily the most accurate reflection of signal strength, but those 2 drop calls are generally about 2 more than I've usually had in other tests. I didn't have any sort of death grip type issues, didn't lose reception when being held. Call quality was very good. I had no white noise on my end. The caller had no white noise on their end. From a speakerphone standpoint, it was a little bit tinny and a tad bit quiet. So if you rely on speakerphone to use while you're in a car or any sort of loud environment, this may not be the phone for you. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the phone itself. Let's run through a bit of the specs very quickly, and then I will talk about what the phone can do to give you some perspective on the device. So it is an AT&T phone. It's going to set you back about $129 on a 2-year contract. It's got a 3.7-inch diagonal screen. It's an LCD display with a resolution of 480 by 854, so relatively decent resolution. It's got over a 1500 milliamp hour battery, so you're going to get well over 7 hours of talk time, and battery life is actually fantastic on this device. I was easily able to get through a day, and I'm a very heavy user. I use email, browsing, and sort of everything else that a smartphone can do. And generally, I push it very hard that I don't get through a full day. Not a problem with the Bravo. It is running Android 2.1 with Motorola's Moto Blur sitting on top of it. And it's an older version of Moto Blur that has sort of those colored icons. We'll talk about Moto Blur a bit more in a minute. It's got a TI OMAP 800 MHz processor. Now, in this world of fast processors and thinking of Snapdragon and gigahertz, you might think the 800 is going to make this thing a bit anemic. Actually, it's very, very quick, and I'm going to show you that in just a few minutes. It's being assisted by 512 megabytes of RAM. It's got a 2 gig micro SD card included. It's got a 3 megapixel camera on the back, which can take standard definition video. No HD recording here. And this can do flash content with a flashlight. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the phone. The first thing I noticed when I unboxed this guy and picked it up was its very thin form factor. The thing is very svelte, if you will, and is very light and has a really nice feel in the hand. It's got that soft touch rubber in the back, which makes it sort of a nice grip to it. From a form factor standpoint, I really liked the phone. It felt good, it was light in the pocket, wasn't taking up that much space, and 3.7-inch screen really gave a lot of screen real estate. Generally, I've lamented about capacitive buttons on the bottom. These were actually very responsive. They're the Moto Blur array of buttons, so this is going to be your menu, your home, and your back. There is not a search button, though, like we have on the majority of other Android devices, unfortunately. So something to keep in mind if you use the search button. I did use that quite a bit, and I was certainly missing it. So with Moto Blur, you're going to get a ton of widgets. I am not the biggest fan of Moto Blur. I try and sort of turn off a lot of the widgets. But it can do a lot of things. It's a cloud syncing service. It's going to sort of bring in and supposedly amalgamate all of your social media and all of your contacts, or put it all into one place and upload it to Motorola servers. So if you ever change phones, you log into your Moto Blur account, everything will be there. Essentially, it's a lot of sort of widget based. You can see that familiar Moto Blur icons at the bottom to show you what screen you're on. I'll show you what the widgets are here very quickly, the Motorola widgets. I'm not the biggest fan, but there are some of them are useful. The calendar widgets are pretty nice, the weather widgets, all the social networking, and the sort of Wi-Fi toggle switches. Nothing revolutionary here, it's sort of standard Android stuff, but you just get a bit more functionality, I suppose, with Moto Blur. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, and I mentioned this sort of earlier and touched on it, was there's a lot of talk about processor speed and whether or not that's going to translate to a better experience. And I found that faster processor, if it's not optimized for the software, isn't going to result in a faster experience. So let me show you what this TI OMAP 800 MHz processor can do. I'm actually going to start doing this with all of my Android devices to give you a sense of its prowess. So we're going to use something called a quadrant here. Essentially, it's going to benchmark the phone. And I'm going to do this live. You can see what the full benchmark is going to be on the phone. And while it's running, I'll talk about some other features here. We'll go ahead and run the full benchmark. So it's going to test for CPU, memory. It's going to test 2D graphics and 3D graphics to see what it can do. So if you want to play 3D games or 2D games, you want a phone that's going to be able to handle this, as well as handling a pretty decent amount of multitasking. So this guy will run in the background. I'll talk a bit more about the phone. So I'm a big fan of the Android stock keyboard. I've talked about it in all my Android reviews. The keyboard that comes just with Android. I haven't enjoyed necessarily that much the Motorola keyboard that's sort of sitting on top of this. So I've actually transitioned back to using the standard Android keyboard. This does not have a slide-out QWERTY keyboard, so you're going to be relying solely on the screen for text entry. Something to keep in mind. I definitely recommend trying this keyboard first. You can see it now, so running through some cool-looking 3D benchmarks. And it's doing a very nice job. It's pretty smooth here. I've seen this on other devices, some of them even with faster processors. It can't quite handle this 3D graphics test with this much alacrity. So it's doing a bit more here. We got some globe spinning. I didn't want to do this sort of live on camera, so you guys can see that the results weren't fidgeted with and messed with at all. So it's doing sort of a DNA sequence here. And we are just about done. So it's going to send the results here, and we'll see how it stacks up against some other Android devices. And this I found very, very telling. So there's a... close that. Alright, so unfortunately, it did not show what that speed was there. We're going to go ahead and run this test one more time, and I'll cut back to the results. You don't have to watch it again. Alright, so here is the final benchmark score of the Motorola Bravo, and the results might surprise you. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit more so you can sort of see where we stand. Certainly, once this is updated to Android 2.2, we should see some even increased speeds. Motorola has said a 2.2 update will be coming. So let's look at the bottom here and see where we stand. So if you look, we've got the original Motorola Droid, Sony Xperia X10, working our way up from the bottom, HTC Desire. There's the Nexus 1, Samsung Galaxy S, Moto Droid X. There's the Bravo, Evo with 2.2, which is pretty impressive. Motorola Droid X with 2.2, and then the Motorola Droid 2. Sort of leading this charge. We can see that out of all these phones here, we're looking at the fourth best of these phones that are being tested, and those are a lot of Android devices, which is pretty impressive. Score there of just over 1100. I'm going to be doing this test on all Android phones. I think it's very telling to see how well the processor and the software work together. Alright, so let's go ahead and check out the browser. This is, of course, multi-touch, and I mentioned that it can do flash. So go ahead, and of course it's got an accelerometer. We'll jump into Techno Buffalo here and show you what that looks like. So we'll do a real quick search. You can see that keyboard I was mentioning earlier. Of course it rotates as well, but not the biggest fan of the Moto Blur keyboard. Just something to keep in mind. So we'll go ahead and do a quick search here, Techno Buffalo, and we'll let this load. And there's a bit of flash content here, so you can see the speed of flash. Using the flashlight, not like you want to light up a room, but it's actually called flashlight. It's not Flash 10.1 we can get on Android 2.2. It does work pretty well. It is going to be a bit of a battery drain, and your pinch and zooming isn't going to be as smooth. You can turn it off if you want to not have the flash content, have improved battery life, and have a bit smoother pinch to zoom. On other Android 2.1 devices that I've tested, especially on the Techno Buffalo website, the pinch to zoom with the flash turned on has not been very smooth. However, I was very impressed with it here. On the Motorola Bravo. This phone is much faster than I expected it to be. When I first tested this, I thought it was going to be mostly a mid-range device with moderate performance. It turns out it offers performance comparable of the flagship devices, with the one exception being its very anemic 3-megapixel camera. So something to keep in mind here. Let's go ahead and jump out. So in conclusion, the Motorola Bravo really did surprise me from a feature and performance standpoint. I was really blown away by what the device can do. I think it represents a really nice, sort of mid to high range smartphone for AT&T. Now, you saw this got a higher ranking than the Galaxy S phones. If you're sort of looking at this versus the Galaxy S is going to offer probably a better package of features with that Super AMOLED screen. However, if you don't want the Galaxy S, you're looking for something a bit different, perhaps a different form factor, maybe a bit smaller screen here with the 3.7-inch screen. The Bravo is going to be a really fantastic phone. On a 1 to 5 scale, I give it a very strong 4. Losing out on that 1.4, like I mentioned, it's a very weak camera, and that dropped call and speakerphone quality that I experienced earlier. I mentioned in the beginning part of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this review of the Motorola Bravo. For all your smartphone news, be sure to check out technobuffalo.com. And for exclusive content, check me out at Twitter, twitter.com/John4Lakers. Links to those will all be down below. I'm John Rettinger. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.